Everyone has a unique gift, and Mike, the creator of the One Life podcast, believes most people don't know how to use their gifts or what they are. Mike wants you to see things from a different perspective and be true to yourself. The One Life podcast unites the world through art, fashion, music, and film. It inspires, motivates, and creates positive energy, love, and compassion to all communities and creates an equal playing field for all. On the One Life podcast, they cover topics like building relationships, overcoming adversity, habits of healthy people, and much, much more. We only have one life to live. Be yourself and live your truth. Add the One Life podcast to your playlist. That's the number one, NE Life. Available on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and your favorite podcast platform.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the One Life podcast, and I do not like my voice. You can't tell? It's horrible.
You know what? Like I said, some people like that type of voice, so don't worry about it.
What's up, y'all? Mike MIC Reed, and here we talk about positive psychology while taking care of our well-being and telling your story, because everybody has an amazing story. Just like my guest today in studio, Miss Lisa Sarno.
Hi, Mike.
My friend, my fixer. She's gonna be the new co-host. She just doesn't know it yet.
Oh, that's news. Well, you know what? I want to say thank you for inviting me back. I really appreciate it. And it is 2025.
I know. Happy New Year.
Oh, my goodness.
And when I asked you to come back, you were so shocked. Like, why wouldn't I have you back?
You know, I'm always appreciative when people ask me to come and participate in things like this. So, you know, I don't assume that anybody really wants to talk to me.
Lisa, you do so much for the community. A lot of people don't know, like, I don't think people know half of the things you do.
I don't even remember, actually, quite frankly.
That means there's a lot.
It means that I'm blessed and I'm grateful to be able to be involved in the community.
That's amazing. So you are the chair for Action for Kids. Action for Kids is a California nonprofit benefit corporation, right? They're one of 12 of Los Angeles County's child abuse prevention councils.
We are.
How do you liking it?
You know, it's it'll be a year that I was honored to become the chair of the Action for Kids board, and it's been a quite eventful, if you will, and just a fun-filled, packed several months. And I have to say that I truly enjoyed the board members that work with me, you being one, Mike. So I really appreciate that.
We wasn't going to mention that, but thank you.
Well, you know what? I'm grateful for the people that are on the board that actually are committed and dedicated and work, you know, do all the work with the kids. And it's really important what we're doing because out here, as you know, out here in the Antelope Valley, we have one of the highest reporting, if you will, incidents of child abuse. Now, I take that as a half glass full instead of a half glass empty because that means that we're doing our job as a group, as a team, in making sure that people know how to report if there's something going on, which means that there are actually children that are being helped as a result of the reporting. So, but it still doesn't negate the fact that we have way too many, if you will, kids that are, you know, on that edge, that need the help, that are on that edge. And it really is about educating folks and just getting that information out about what to do. If you hear it, if you see it, you have to report it.
Yes. How do you? Because I know most of your career, you worked with adults.
Actually, no.
That's not true.
That's not quite accurate. Okay. Basically, all of my career, I've always worked with kids, with youth.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
I know a few of your titles, and they're not kids corporations or anything.
They're not kids corporations, but they were, you know, the jobs that I held actually interacted and worked with and partnered with a lot of community organizations. So it wasn't limited to any one category, if you will, adults or youth or seniors. It was the entire gambit. Okay. So I'm, like I said, I have a portfolio that really kind of spans all the different focus areas. And that was baptism by fire, quite frankly. I never thought that I'd be doing half of the things that I did, but I really enjoyed, you know, the learning curve, because a lot of it was the learning curve. Who would have thought that I would have worked for the Dodgers under the original family, you know, O'Malley's, right? I wasn't a sports person, right. But Peter O'Malley, who was, the owner of the Dodgers at the time, really wanted to do something with the community. So I had the chance to work with the Dodgers and create and help institute the Dodger Dream Foundation in the 1990s. So yeah, it's been an interesting, long kind of journey.
But have you ever, I'm assuming, because you said you always worked with kids, but has it always been a passion of yours, or was it something that just happened?
No, it's always been a passion. I think from an early age, just like a lot of us, if you will, those of us that are involved in the community, I think a lot of us have our own stories from childhood, and I think that's what makes us so passionate about making sure that, we work with the kids and the youth today, that they don't have to go through the same things we did.
Right.
Yeah, so it's always been something that has been at the forefront for me. Like you right now.
What do you mean?
Well, you have a wonderful job right now, right?
I do. I love my job.
Yeah. So,
and
how long has it been since you've been doing that now?
At this job?
And you should tell people, I'm sure you've already said it, but remind people what you do.
We talked about that last show.
I know you did, but you know what? Let's talk about it again. So
it's I am a student mentor. I've been doing that for about, it's crazy. There's only been 7 weeks, 8 weeks. But it seemed like my last show, I had my training manager on, and we talked about the program and what we do. But honestly, these 7 weeks, it felt like 6 months because it's so much. Like when I first went into the schools, and I've always wanted to go into the schools. Even though all my life I worked with kids, but I never was able to get into the schools, because of the red tape and, different companies, different things. But so I was very fortunate and blessed to have this opportunity. And but when I went in, I wasn't expecting to see what I saw.
And what did you see?
Chaos.
Chaos.
No, literally, I walked into this one classroom, and I tell people this all the time, and it's not even no exaggeration whatsoever. I felt like I walked into a scene of Lean On Me, that movie Lean On Me. Yeah, really, like kids are just running around the classrooms, cussing at the teacher, just like the teacher. And I know it's no fault to her because the teachers have a hard job, but she just had no control over the classroom, and it was just it was crazy. So me and my team had to go in there and kind of regulate the classroom, and we did, and we gave her some tools to use to regulate the class, and it took us about, I want to say, 2 weeks, excuse me, to get to class.
To stabilize
it, yes.
Yeah.
But it was crazy.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm sure you probably talked about it, but you know what? Let's just revisit, because I think it pertains to everything we might be talking about today.
Right.
But when you were in those classes, in addition to what's happening at that moment, right? What were some of the things that you uncovered, that you learned about the kids and what they might be experiencing? What was the main, 1 or 2 things that you found they were experiencing outside of the classroom?
It is what we've been talking about lately. It's my voice. It's my voice.
Thank you. I am a lady. I appreciate that.
It's what we've been talking about lately is secondary trauma.
Yeah.
So the first week that I was in the schools, I didn't do much but observe. I would just go into classrooms and just, introduce myself, but I would just stand in the back, just kind of observe what's going on. I paid attention to certain kids, and over a week span, I got to know certain kids and got to know certain teachers. And just when you just sit there and observe, and because I've been there, I can kind of tell already what's going on. Like I was talking about on the last show, I don't look at the kid as disrupting the class, even though he or she is a disruption to the class. I'm looking at that pain they're going through, and that's why one of the reasons why they're acting out.
And so for the folks that are watching, right, that don't know what secondary trauma really is, because I think that's basically a newer term that's being floated out there at this point in time because of all the research that's come out about it. But why don't you tell us what secondary trauma is, Mike?
It's a type of psychological trauma that occurs when someone is exposed to a traumatic event experienced by another person.
See, you know what? You knew I was going to ask that question
And
because you were reading. I know.
I got my notes here.
I'm like, he's reading.
Oh, we're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about IPV, everything.
Okay. Yeah, secondary trauma, as you mentioned, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be directly the person that it's happening, right? It's not geared towards you, but you're witnessing everything.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times that secondary trauma that we don't even know is happening to us actually follows us from childhood into adulthood, and it really impacts how we interact with people. Right. And, a lot of people say, well, can you kind of give me an example? Well, you know what? Here's a perfect example, right? COVID was a worldwide secondary trauma. Right. Because everybody who was in that situation, we were all in that situation together. We were watching the news. We had people that we knew that were being impacted by it. Either they got it or we lost them as a result. So that was a worldwide secondary trauma situation that was happening. Another one was for folks who will definitely remember is the 9/11. The 9/11 attacks on our Twin Towers, right? Everybody was watching those images, and it impacted us. We didn't know when and if something else was going to happen. And then January 6th, right, our Capitol. That was all secondary trauma. So and right now, it's happening again in the city of Los Angeles with all these wildfires. Yeah, all these wildfires are happening. And, social media and our, visuals, sometimes they're actually a blessing in that, it gives you information access, immediate access to information. But it can also be a challenge because we're constantly being stimulated. Right. And so that causes secondary trauma that we don't even realize we're experiencing. And
you know what? When I was doing my research on secondary trauma, and one of the causes that really stuck out to me is consistently watching the news or following traumatic events on social media. Mm-hmm. That stuck out to me because I had someone that I was seeing. Well, I'm gonna say it was my ex-wife. And she would constantly watch those murder mystery shows. Yeah. Right? Yes. Even though they're interesting to watch to see how they solve crimes and, you get into the minds of these serial killers, but you're watching trauma. Mm-hmm. And she would watch it literally like 24/7 every day. At work, she had her laptop open. And when we got home, she was on her phone. The TV was always turned to that. And so I was always curious on why would she be in a bad mood, because she had trauma, right? But by her watching all these other traumas, it's like it's triggering. It is, and you're still living it. Right. That's why I try to tell people, even the simplest things, your environment that you're in, you can be experiencing secondary trauma and you don't even know it. That's why sometimes I tell people you have to get out of your environment to get healthy. Sometimes it's your environment, because if you're in it, like you said, it's not something that's being caused to you. It's just you're experiencing it. You're right there in the middle of it.
And you're absolutely right. And part of what, when we're doing the workshops around secondary trauma, because that's what Action for Kids also does, because it impacts the kids and leads them into unhealthy, if you will, emotional situations as adults. You realize that our educators, our teachers, are actually experiencing secondary trauma. And that was made clear to me the end of last year when we did some workshops for some colleges. And we were in the workshop setting, and I touched on secondary trauma, and the teachers came back, and the feedback was, we really need you to come back and talk to us about secondary trauma, because they related. But they didn't even know what it was that they were experiencing, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't even understand what they might be able to do in order to help themselves. Right. So you need to recognize it first.
No, absolutely. And like I said, when I went into these schools, I observed, and a lot of the teachers, you can tell, are burnt out. And it's something that when I met with a few of the principals and even my team and my upper team, we talked about this in our trainings, is that a lot of these teachers, they're burnt out because they don't get a break, right? So they're in schools every day, all day, dealing from one situation to another. And if you have a classroom full of kids that are experiencing this, that energy is bringing on to you.
That is right.
And so you're experiencing it as well, and you don't get a break. So what I teach my team is I do team huddles and community circles throughout the day. Like if we're experiencing a situation with a student, we handle it the best way we can, but then we go back to our room and we do team huddles. We talk about it. If we need to do a community circle, to like, let's talk about your feelings. Because I'm big on asking my team, okay, how are you feeling right now? Like, because you can't just go from situation to situation because you're carrying all those traumas with you.
You're absorbing it.
Yeah.
Right?
So you have to take a break because you have to regulate yourself too.
So how are you feeling right now, Mike? How are you feeling, Mike? Tell me.
Lisa Sarno likes to flip the mic on me, and we're not doing it this show. She's trying to. I'm doing great.
I think it's important.
No, I'm actually doing great. I know you somewhat don't believe me, but it's like we learned in our.
I do believe.
I really hate my voice right now. It's like we learned in our CAP class, right? Wellbeing. Wellbeing is not your life is going to be. Oh my gosh, it's not going to be struggle free, but we learn to struggle well. I believe I'm struggling well. You're not going to not have any struggles in life. You're going to have struggles every day. And I just told my team this the other day. Yesterday, Friday. Everything is not going to be perfect. We're not going to have these great days, but we have to adapt. So yesterday, like we had some little hiccups, but I remember we did this activity with this one group of kids, and this little girl, her mom works at the school, and it was the first activity we did with the school, and she loved it. She ran and told her mom, because her mom is a teacher at the school, and her teacher went up to one of my mentors and said, "Hey, I love what you guys doing. My daughter's excited." Like, to me, even though we had hiccups during the day, that was a win.
Of course, that was a win because they understood what was going on, right?
Right. So when I say I'm okay, it's like, yeah, I'm struggling well. I have struggles, but I'm not letting it bother me too much. I still push through the day. I still push through what I got to do.
So here's the 15-second version. What we tell people is it's okay to not be okay. Just don't get stuck there.
Right.
Right. Just don't get stuck there.
And that's me. I know when someone asks me if I'm okay, especially like you. I don't want to go through all the things that are bothering me right now because it's like it actually annoys me because I don't know why all these things are happening, but it's happening for a reason. And it's things out of my control too. It's not like I'm asking for these things or I put myself in situations like I was just in a car accident, over a month ago, and I still don't have my car back. I didn't ask to be in an accident. I didn't tell the lady behind me to run into me, and I just got that car 3 months prior, brand new car. And I'm like, nah, not my car again. So
what was the lesson from that?
What was the lesson from it? I still don't know. I'm being honest. I don't know what the lesson was. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Lesson: be grateful for what you have.
Okay.
Be grateful for your health and your physical well-being. Right.
This is true. But I'm gonna be honest with you. It put a strain on my life because, like, for instance, I couldn't, like, my holidays was, to me, horrible because I spent them by myself because I couldn't go nowhere. I was stuck. All my family's in Pasadena and Altadena, where all the fires was. So during Christmas and all that, I couldn't get there. I wasn't going. Even though I have money to catch an Uber, like that's how I get around now. It's expensive. I'm grateful, and like you just said, I'm grateful that I have a great paying job that I can catch an Uber or a Lyft anywhere I want. But I'm also being mindful of my money because I know I have to go buy a new car soon. Like, I don't want to just be, irresponsible and just start blowing money, like going places all the time,
So I'm sorry that you went through that because that is a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
But I am grateful that you are okay.
Yeah, me too.
And so you mentioned your family that's in Altadena in the Eden fire. Are they okay?
Yes, they had to evacuate. They're at my nephew's house. And my sister had that home. I have two sisters out there. One of my sisters had the home for, I want to say, 40 years, almost 40 years. And that's the house we always go to on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Like, for the last 30-some years, that's where we always go. But her house is still there. She's very grateful. Her house is still there. She has a bunch of ash and, all that stuff on it. But house is still there, thank God. So, but they're okay.
Well, one of the things we're talking about right now when we're talking about, secondary trauma is also that psychological safety, right? And for the people that are trying to help at this point in time, I had a meeting with, Department of Children Family Services last week, and a lot of the, families that they were helping they don't even know where they went at this point in time because they had to evacuate. So they're trying to find them. But one of the things that, some of us can do is we can go to some of the child care facilities that are welcoming the kids at this point in time so that the parents, and, watching the kids so the parents can go do what they need to do as far as getting the documents and everything they need to just get a roof over their head.
Right.
But the children basically, are in secondary trauma or have trauma because they had to flee those flames. Their homes, their schools, all gone, right? So where's the psychological safety? So one of the things I know that, we are going to be doing, Action for Kids and also the Child Abuse Prevention Councils, is to be doing some art therapy, going into the, facilities where the children are and working with the caregivers that are there and doing some art therapy just to make sure that they can release their emotions and then also see if there's anything happening that might need additional attention that's coming out through the artwork.
I love that.
So I mean, there's different ways, and I think part of it is right now everybody is really helping, supporting, getting all the donations and everything, but the after, it's the recovery process, right? It's going to take years for the recovery process. And so what happens when the cameras are gone? What happens when the media is not really putting out there the story because it's not at front and center at this point in time? And so, we're all looking at what are we going to do as a community, as a service community, to help the families and the children, specifically the children in our case, specifically the children in the next 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Because, when you think about it, think about the visuals that we've been seeing and how they had to evacuate within minutes, and they basically have lost everything.
Right.
Yeah. So, when you talk about the teachers, the educators, one of the things that we also, and we know this is, I'm kind of giving information that, and talking about things we already know, but our first responders, oh my God, heroes, right?
No, they are amazing.
Total heroes. But talk about secondary trauma and their families too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so,
I know a couple of firefighters, and when they get, one of them the captain, and, when he's on these situations, he's away from home, like for days. And, just that secondary trauma that he's experiencing.
For sure. And then, of course, their families, because they don't know, what situation their loved ones are in.
Right, because they can't contact them.
Exactly. So all of that basically means that we have a lot of work to do. And for those of us that are doing the presentations and making sure that they have the tools. So let me ask you a question.
No, you said you didn't want to host the show, so you're not allowed to ask questions.
No, but I do want to ask the question because you're in it every single day.
Right.
So when you view the secondary trauma happening, especially with the educators you're working with, what tools do you give them? What suggestions do you give them? And then we can talk about those tools. But what tools do you give them?
The educators and so that's a great question, because actually yesterday I had a great meeting with one of the counselors at this one particular school, and we sat down for about an hour just talking about how we can collab, because my team is new at this one school, and so I had a meeting with her, and I was just kind of showing her all the tools that I had, like think sheets, problem solving maps, and all these things that we use, with the kids, check in, check out systems that we use with our kids. And she was showing me all her stuff, and our stuff was almost like it was very similar, but it was little things about our stuff that she loved that she said she's going to start incorporating with hers, and vice versa. So just working and collabing together, and, and I just kept telling her, because at this one particular school, there's only 2 counselors throughout the whole school with 600 kids. That just seems crazy to me, right? Wow. But I mean, I get it. I know you can't have 100 counselors there for all the kids, but I just kind of kept telling her, like, hey, if you need a break, if you need us to help you in any way, let us know, because that's what we're there for. So at this school, I have 4 mentors there that's helping. So I go around to different schools, and I mentor the mentors as well, and I help the teams, get put together and help them build help them build up the program.
So one of the most basic and simplest, if you will, tools that especially our educators and first responders at this point in time, and even the kids, their parents, is to just breathe.
Yeah.
because sometimes people forget to just inhale and exhale.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they are breathing, but the way that people breathe, the long, the inhale of the air and then the slow exhale actually does have a real calming effect. And just finding a quiet place for 5 minutes, even 5 minutes a day, 5 to 10 minutes a day, and just breathe.
Yeah.
In long inhale, and just take a slow exhale. And I think part of that is we don't really do that for ourselves.
No, we don't. And even some of the things that I'm teaching these, and the counselor kind of knew this because she does it. But the teachers, the staff, because they're not really trained on a lot of stuff that we are, right? Like with the well-being and all that. So one of the things that I'm telling the teachers and the staff at the schools is when you see an incident happen, and I train my team this as well. When you see an incident happen, make sure you regulate yourself first. Like, don't just rush into a situation. Like, even though I know that's our first instinct, like if a fight breaks out, we want to get in there. But it's like, regulate yourself first. If you're not ready for it, like, let somebody else handle it. Because it's a lot of duty aides and staff and teachers that are out on these playgrounds and in the classrooms. Like, you don't have to be the first one there. It's like, regulate yourself first. Like you said, like, take a breath. Are you mentally prepared to handle what you're about to jump into? And if you're not, have a team member do it.
And you're absolutely correct. But sometimes it's easier said than done, right?
No, it is.
Yeah. Our natural instinct as individuals who are protective of kids or even just protective of other individuals, you're going to want to rush in, like you said,
right,
to help support. And then you're in the middle of it going, what was I thinking? But, that's why it's important, I believe, that's why it's important that those of us that are out there doing this type of work, that we ourselves are, like you said, are getting the training, are getting the certifications, and people say, oh, it's another certification. You're going for another class? Yeah, because here's the thing. I just recently finished a trauma workshop, right? And I had no idea, some of the things that I personally experienced while growing up actually did cause secondary trauma for me.
Right.
And when I talk to folks and we really share what secondary trauma is and how it follows you from a child into adulthood and can really impact your work life, your relationships, right? And just your individual ability to be in a regular conversation that can be triggering. And so it's really important for us, if we're out there doing this type of work, to make sure we know, what we need to know in order to be helpful.
But, also to go with the piggyback off that, it's working as a team and working with these different counselors and different teams that are at the school, because there's a lot of teams that are at the school. Excuse me, my voice, I really hate this. but working with the team is it's because everybody has a job, right? So like my team, we're not allowed to touch the school, not the school, but the students. We're not allowed to discipline them. We're not there for that. We're there for their well-being and to get them to stay motivated to go to class and do the things and help them, accomplish their goals. So we don't do no disciplinary actions. We don't grab them we don't break up fights or anything. That's for the duty aides and the other staff, playground staff that's there. And that's why I always tell my team to just regulate. So we fortunately do have the time to sit there and regulate first while the duty aides are breaking it up, and we can kind of observe what's going on, and then we can kind of go in there, the aftermath, and help the students, figure out what, do the problem solving and figure out what happened.
So it sounds like you really do enjoy what you're doing.
I actually do. It's actually my safe space. I'm gonna be honest with you. My personal life right now is all screwed up. So I'm happy when I wake up and I get to go into these classrooms and the schools, because I know I'm doing something that's impacting these kids' lives and it's gonna help. So I'm not too focused on my life.
So you're helping the youth that you're working with and students you're working with make sure that they have a healthy adult life.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I think I heard you mention when we were talking about secondary trauma a while back, I heard that when we first talked about it, it was a phrase that you really weren't aware of until that time, and then you mentioned something to me. Can you share that with me again?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. I like how you keep asking me questions, though. It's the Lisa Sarno show.
No.
But no, yeah, and this goes with constantly growing. Like I'm constantly growing, I'm constantly learning. I don't have it all figured out, but the one thing I love about my life is, in my mindset, is that I love to learn and I love to grow. And so, yeah, we was having a conversation about secondary trauma and IPV, intimate partner violence. And I went through a situation with my daughter years ago. My daughter just had a birthday. She just turned 23. And this is when she was 15. My daughter, this was 8 years ago. I can't believe it's been 8 years.
Time goes quickly, doesn't it?
I feel old. I got to stop talking about my kid's age because I start thinking about how old I am.
We're just more mature at this point in time.
Yeah. So about 8 years ago, I went through a thing with my daughter, and she had a trigger that she was scared to talk to me or even be around me. And me and her mom didn't know what was going on. We sent her to a therapist. After we tried to figure out like what's going on, at first instincts, when a child with that type of behavior that just kind of shuts down and don't want to talk, the first thing in mind is like, okay, did somebody do something to you? Did somebody touch you? Like, we start going through the whole list. Like, we started going through our families. Cause it was like, okay, well, we know you hang out with my brother, my nephews, all these people. We start saying, did anybody touch you? Like, we start going through that, because we want to know what's going on because you're not talking to us.
But that's important that you did that.
It is important that we did it, right? And so we had to rule everybody out first, and then after that, once we ruled everybody out and everybody was kind of safe, we sent her to a therapist. It was like, okay, well, you need to talk to a therapist because you're not talking to us, and you need to talk to somebody. And I get it. Most kids won't talk to their parents, so they're more comfortable talking to a stranger or somebody else.
But that's all part of that psychological safety, right?
Psychological safety, right? And at that time, I didn't know nothing about that, but now I do. But it turned out to where she was, she had secondary trauma because it was something that I don't want to sound like I was doing something to my son, but I was training my son how to walk again because he had cerebral palsy. And, so he had, throughout his life, he had to have like 3 different surgeries. They cut his legs, they rotate them, and it took like months of learning how to walk again. So he had to go through therapy, and I was the one taking him to therapy 3 days a week, but he still had to do therapy at home.
The rehab.
Yeah. And so when he was doing rehab, the first time everything went well, right? Like he showed me he could do it. He set the bar.
Right.
I think it was the second. So during his second time is when he was getting lazy and he didn't want to do it no more. And me as a father of a boy, like it was just that tough love. So I was like, come on, do it. You can do it. You already set the bar and you're way down here.
You thought you were motivating.
I thought I was motivating, right. Just like any other dad when we're playing sports was there. Like we just that tough love. But I wasn't helping at all. Like, and my daughter was there because I was an entrepreneur and I was working from home and I was watching the kids while the mom was at work all day. So my daughter would just be sitting there taking all of it in. So this is when she was 10. This is when she was 5. She was 5, my son was 10. But fast forward 10 years later is when the trigger happened. We still don't know what triggered it, but a trigger happened to where she was telling the therapist about something that happened 10 years ago. And I was like, so when she first told us that, the therapist told us that, I was like, what? Like
She stored it. She stored it,
right, yeah. But I was just like, wow, like that's 10 years ago. And I said, I didn't even touch her. Like wasn't even yelling at her. I didn't touch her, I didn't yell at her. And my wife, fortunately, understood what the therapist was saying. It took me a minute to understand it, but I finally understood like what they were talking about. They were talking about secondary trauma.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Right. And you mentioned that, well, by the way, what Mike is talking about is that we were in a training session, if you will, an onboarding for some of our new board members. And so we were going over what Action for Kids actually does presentations on. And the information that we have, and secondary trauma was one of them. But I think what we learn is that, it doesn't matter what we think. Right. It's how we are appearing, right, to the person who's watching it. And so a lot of times when you're a child, we don't understand what adults would call motivation. It basically, for her, probably it was, my dad screaming and yelling at my brother who's having trouble, who's in pain. Right. And trying to force him to do something that he doesn't want and can't do. So as a 5-year-old, we're not processing, if you will, the bigger picture at that point in time. We're only processing what we see.
Right.
But she kept that, right?
She kept it. But, and once I learned that, and it took a year, which was the hard part, for us to restore our relationship, and to this day, she still has like little triggers. Her mom says that that's normal. And I understand that's normal now, because it's just about taking care of our well-being. Like we're going to always have these little triggers, but how do you regulate them? And she's doing better, because I think now over the last, I want to say, year or two, she, like in the beginning, it was all about blame, right? But now she's turning it on her. Like, okay, well, how am I helping to rebuild this?
Mike, we all know she was scared. At 5 years old, she must have been really frightened.
No, I'm talking about after that.
Yeah, but I'm talking about back then.
No, back then, she was scared, absolutely.
So when you triggered her, all that feelings of being frightened and, scared came back to the forefront for her, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what caused her to remember all this.
Right.
And the rebuilding process of trust, right?
Yeah.
And having psychological safety with you specifically. So you're saying triggers. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. You're absolutely right. We all carry triggers.
Yeah.
From, our entire life to where we are right now. You never know what little thing is going to trigger a memory, right? And then how we deal with it, though, is really important. And sometimes, and, you and I both know this, sometimes we don't even know that it's happening to us, and we can't even really remember why we're being triggered.
Right.
And so that's when we know we need help. We need to ask for the help, right? So I'm glad that you and your wife at the time took your daughter to...
Ex-wife.
At the time, I said wife at the
time. I just
time.
want to be clear. I'm not married no more.
Your wife at the time, that you guys basically, realized that you had to take your daughter to a therapist, because she wasn't talking to you. So, and how is she now? I mean,
well, that's what I was saying. Like now, she's really focused on her, because me and my ex-wife, we're best friends. We talk all the time, which is great. No, we really are. And
I believe you.
But because I'm into positive psychology, and now that I'm in the schools, I'm actually studying restorative practices, because that's what we use in the schools. But she's also studying a lot of these things as well. Like she just got her master's for psychology. So by over the last, I want to say 7-8 years that I've been studying a lot of this stuff, she has too. And that's why we're good friends. Like, we always talk about all this stuff. Like, she just finished this one big leadership training that I was supposed to start in March, and she paid for it. This is crazy. She's like, I think you'll be good at this. And I was like, I just took a long course. I don't want to take another one. But I like to grow. I don't mind. I think I'm going to do it. I still got a month to decide if I'm not.
Leaders are constantly learning.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I get that. But anyway, by both my daughter's mom and me, studying and take care of our well-being, she's starting to do the same. So she's focused on her and her mental health. That's why I said she's now looking at herself, and she's not pointing the fingers no more about why is all this happening.
Well, that's really wonderful to hear. So I need to ask you a question. How's your son, the one that you were doing rehab with?
Oh, he's good.
Okay.
He's just him.
Okay. So
but you know what?
No secondary trauma for him, right?
Oh, that's crazy. And I guess that's the crazy part, because even though he knows what's going on, he never blamed me. He understood. Because I think me and him have always been close. But I won't say me and my daughter's been close too. But I think because I spent more time with him, because I coached all his soccer teams, and so me and him has always had conversations. So he never blamed me. He was never mad. He knew what I was trying to do. We've always had conversations, and mind you, he's 5 years older than her. Right. Even when it was happening, I was talking to him, because it was a time where He was crying because I was yelling at him, but I was explaining to him why I was doing this. Like you set the bar, so you can't tell me you can't do something if you set the bar up here. Now you way down here. It's like, no, you've already set the bar. It's a mental thing. So I was kind of thinking I was motivating him, but we was having those conversations, and he was older, so I think he understood a little bit more.
So where's your bar right now?
With what?
You tell me, where's your bar right now for 2025? Where's your bar?
I mean, in what area are we talking about?
Whatever area you want to share.
Well, why are you trying to turn this on me? We have a list of things to talk to you about.
Okay, but tell me, what for 2025, what's the bar for you?
I don't know. Because remember, you got to remember, Lisa, you just don't know me at all, do you?
I know you really
It's
well.
not
That's
never,
why I'm asking that question.
It's never about me. It's always about me and making an impact, in this world. And so I don't really have a bar. I guess.
So you're going to go take that leadership training that your wife was talking about because she really felt it'd be good for you, and she probably knows
She said
you
I would
better.
like it, yeah.
Yeah, so she probably knows you better than most people.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, and so if she's offering that up, then that's a bar that you're setting for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to go take the class.
Well, I mean, she paid for it, so I feel like I'm obligated to take it at this point. And it's an expensive class, too. So,
and at the end of the class, what happens? What do you get? The knowledge.
Okay, so
and
it's
what
three.
else?
It's three different courses. There's three different levels to this class, and they want you to take all three. Mm-hmm. So the one I'm taking is just a 3-day week. It's like a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but it's 12 hours each day, way like in Marina Del Rey. I'm not looking forward to that. That's what's deterring me right now. It's like I got to go out there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 12 hours each day. Like, that's just crazy to me.
But you're going out of your environment and you're going to be meeting all these wonderful new people.
No, and I love the networking. I love
right?
talking to people,
Yeah.
but I just feel like that's a lot. But I already know, like, I just watched her go through all three levels. She went through all three levels. Uh-huh. And so the last course is, I forgot what they call it, but it's a 4-month course. Mm-hmm. And it's 3 days out of the week, for 4 months. And I remember it really is like 12, 14-hour days. And like they give you an assignment and you're not supposed to leave until the assignment is done. Like you put into a teams and you go out in the field and you do all this stuff. And I remember her one weekend, she was like, it's 2:00 in the morning. They're still not done. But yet she had to be back at 7:00 in the morning. So I'm like, that's just crazy. Like, and I'm used to those hours because I worked in entertainment. But I'm like.
So, but you know what's going to happen? I'm almost, when we come back to have the conversation several months from now, you're going to tell me you really, really loved this class.
I know I am because she's loving it right now. She's glad she did it. Right. It was just, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. The one thing I don't like about it, and she admitted it too, because it's a leadership. So like even like with our course, right?
Which course are you talking about? We take a lot of courses. Which one?
CAP.
Okay. And CAP, for those that don't know, is?
Applied Positive Psychology.
Thank you.
She said they break you down, but they don't build you back up.
Okay.
I didn't like that part.
Yeah.
I didn't like that part because it's like, at least with ours, Lewis and them, when they was teaching, like, I felt like it was therapy on steroids. But I felt like he still built us back up. Here, she said they didn't. She said she didn't like that either. They had to build each other back up. Like it wasn't part of the course.
Well, that is something that maybe you can offer to the team or the individuals you're working with, right?
Right.
So there's probably a reason why you're supposed to be there for them.
Maybe.
Yeah. So having said that, though, you had some questions and you talked about IPV and, DV. And you definitely use the acronym IPV. Does everybody know what IPV is?
Intimate partner violence.
Mm-hmm. And what is that, Mike?
I'm going to let you explain it.
No, I think you're doing a great job because you actually have it in front of you, the actual definition.
I actually don't have the definition of IPV. I have the definition of secondary trauma.
Okay, so
what is IPV?
When we talk about, everybody knows the acronym DV, domestic violence.
Yeah,
a lot of people,
violence,
not everybody, but a lot of people know what domestic violence is. And there's a new acronym that's out there for those that are working in that field. IPV, everybody knows, but for the general public, it is the intimate partner violence, right? That, in some ways, is a new acronym for a lot of folks in the general public. And the difference is, and you know, we went through this, the difference, domestic violence is when you actually live with someone, that this is how they kind of break it down, when you actually live with someone, and it's happening because you're cohabitating.
Right.
The intimate partner violence is when you're not actually cohabitating. You could be dating someone, and, you know, or it could be, if you will, a child and a parent. The intimate partner violence is someone that is very close to you, that you have a relationship with, but you may not actually be living with that person. Now, there's a lot more around that, but that's like a 15-second, if you will, or 30-second kind of explanation.
That's your elevator pitch.
Yeah, that's that is my elevator pitch. But a lot of people are unaware that, again, you know, some of the relationships that they may have had, some of the boyfriends, girlfriends that they were going out with, they actually experienced the intimate partner violence. And so that carries into any kind of permanent relationship they have, also carries into their trust issues, right? And, you know, I think what's really important to tell everybody right now is that you and I are talking about all these different things that sound kind of like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. The truth is there is.
There is, yeah.
There is. But it's also, because of the areas we work in, it's important for us to know this, to recognize it, and be able to identify and help those that are really, you know, experiencing all of these things. We talk about it now, but when I was growing up, it was like taboo, right? I mean, especially in certain ethnicities and cultures, it's taboo. And even now, it's still kind of, we don't talk about that. And because it was, you know, a silent, if you will, you know, your silence was required in certain family situations, we never dealt with it, right? And so today, I think you would agree, even the younger folks, the younger generations, they're okay with talking about the fact that they are having emotional and mental issues. Back when I was growing up, you know, you left that stuff at home. You never brought it out into the open. And so I'm really glad that we're able to actually identify this now and be able to, you know, engage and talk about it more freely than we ever have before.
Yeah, it's more normalized now, which is a great thing.
Okay, that was a great way, 15 seconds. Thank you very much. Yeah. That was normalizing, yes. Yeah. Normalizing mental and emotional health, right? Yeah. So tell me something. Have you been using your well-being tools for yourself?
Yes, always.
What's the one that you've been using most for yourself?
Checking in with myself at the end of every day. Like I said yesterday, with my team, you know, we had hiccups. So it's okay. Well, what went well? And I use that a lot. When I'm going through a bad day, I always check in with myself and say, you know what? Okay, this happened, but what actually went well today? And I build off that.
Right, your little jolts of joy, right, throughout the day.
Jolts of joy, yeah.
Right. So, what else? What other questions do you have for me?
That was that's your last question.
Well, for the moment.
I don't really have questions. I was joking about that, but I did have talking points. But one of the things that I did want to talk about, just kind of elaborating on me more, even what's kind of helped me with the secondary trauma thing is that after I went through that, right, I had to start being mindful of having certain arguments around people. Like, where I started being mindful of that, especially when kids are around. Like, I never argued around any kids no more. But then the older I got, the more I was like, I just don't want to argue, period. You know, like, I don't think I had an argument with anybody in the last 4 years.
So they're not arguments. You may have had disagreements, right? There's a difference.
There is a difference. No, I've had disagreements with people even recently, but I'm talking about like full-out argument where we're just arguing back and forth. Like, I don't think I had one of those in like 4 years.
And that's because that's a conscious?
Yeah, because I know what it does now with the secondary trauma. I don't want nobody around me, you know, putting that out there. But also, it's just, what's the point? Argument is the pointless conversation. Like, if we can't have a healthy conversation and have a healthy disagreement, I don't see the point of arguing. Like, it really doesn't. And it's something that I've learned in CAP too. Like, when someone is trying to argue with me, I say, okay, today is just not the day. Let's talk tomorrow. I've had people try to argue with me, even as of like 8 months ago. Someone tried to argue with me, and I was like, I just sat there and I let them. To me, I thought they was just venting, but it turns out they was really arguing with me. But I just let them do it, and they walked away from me, and I was like, okay. I didn't chase them. I was just like, that person is going through something. I'm just gonna let them be, because they're not ready to have a conversation.
But do you take that home?
No, I did not.
Okay, so you just basically let it go.
I let it go because I knew it had nothing to do with me.
Okay.
I'm really learning to understand that. I think I've learned it, but yeah, I mean, when someone's acting out like that, it has nothing to do with me, because I know I don't do people dirty or bad. Like, so you acting out is like, has nothing to do with me.
Well, that's a milestone for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to be, that's that bar. That's one of the things that you set for yourself, right?
Absolutely. Even with, I don't take things personal, and we kind of, we learned that in CAP, and it's something in restorative practices we teach our mentors as well. We don't take behavior personal, because when we're in these schools with these students, they're acting out. They're cussing at us and yelling at us, and it's like we can't take it personal because we know it's not us.
So I am glad that you're able to do that, because not everybody is able to do that.
They're
because
not.
When people are hurling all these insults and making it about you, because it can't be about them, right? They're making it about you. There are times when you do take it. Well, some people take it home, right?
Oh yeah.
And you kind of think. And for me, I will say that I actually do take some of that home, and then I try to self-reflect. Did I actually, with what they were saying, did I have a hand in any of that? Because I do the introspection, the look inside, and just make sure that I'm not missing something that I may be doing that may be actually, harmful to somebody else. And so I actually do take some of that home. To be fair, I actually do take some of that home. I do the introspection, and then I let go of what I know and believe is not mine to hold. But then sometimes I do hold on to some of the things that I think I can do better with. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and I agree with you. I think in that retrospect, I take it home to assess, like, okay, did I do something that I didn't realize I was doing that made you feel that way? I actually had that conversation with a colleague of mine. They was upset about something, and I asked them. I said, "Was it something that I explained that I didn't explain correctly that made?" Because she was frustrated, and I had to have a one-on-one with her. And I asked her, "Was it something that I explained that was incorrectly that made you frustrated? Was it on my part?" I said, "And I apologize." I said, "I apologize if it was, but I want you to tell me if it was something that I did that I didn't explain correctly." And she actually appreciated it. The next day, she told me, she was like, "Hey, I feel better now because you actually came to me. You noticed I was frustrated." And she was like, "Thank you for even noticing that I was frustrated and wanted to talk to me about it."
And that's a healthy thing, right?
Right.
That's a healthy thing. But it's also important for us to remember that, not everybody may take that in that light.
Right.
And so, we have to just be okay with sometimes you do the best you can, and the timing may be off, right? And it may be later that you come back around to this person, or maybe never. And we have to be okay with letting, at least I've learned, I have to be okay with letting some of those folks go.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that I can ever do that's going to make them be okay.
Right. And this is where we can't control people.
Right. Exactly.
Right. We can't control people. People are going to do what they want. And it's funny because I think because I have conversations with a lot of people, and what you said earlier, it's not easy to do. Like, it took me years to get to where I'm at, to understand, like, my well-being, to understand how to let things go, to be okay with certain things. Even though for me it's still hard, because some people we just don't want to let go, but maybe it's not the right time. Like I know 6 months ago, I had a big, not argument, but a misunderstanding with a friend of mine. And I just recently was talking to her, you know, because we ran into each other and we had a good conversation. You know, and we talked about it. You know, it's sometimes people are not ready right now. And this is something I talked to my training manager about because he always wants to help people and, you know, just be that person. And I remember it being that person like he is, right, just wanting to help. And we was talking about leadership, and I was explaining to him, like, yeah, everybody can be a leader, but some people may not want to be a leader right now. Not saying they can't be, but right now, today, they're not ready. They'll be ready maybe next week, next month, next year. But right now, because I was talking about something, and I was just like, they're not ready.
Maybe not right now.
Not right now, yeah.
And I know a lot of people say, you know, and I think we've had some folks that in common that, you know, it's either no or yes. It's either no or yes. You know, I'm like, well, wait a second. It may be, maybe not right now. Yeah. And then, you know, you can circle back because they may be going through something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they may not be, the timing. It's just all about timing, right? And I've actually had that with, a lot of people in that you first meet them and, you know, you want to work with them, you want to part with them, but they're not in that place. Yeah. And then, you know, several months later and sometimes even years later, you circle back around and I'm like, okay, now. Yeah. And it's even better than what you imagined, right?
Right. I mean, we got to be mindful that because we're all different, we all come from different backgrounds and cultures, we all have different capacities. We all learn differently. We all receive and deliver things differently. So, yeah, just right now, it's okay to not be there right now. I've learned that. Like, okay, I'm not there right now.
Right.
But that's not to say I won't be.
Right.
But we got to, and like I said, it's not easy, but we got to constantly keep growing. Like me, I love to grow. I love to learn. Even at my age. That's why I said I don't have it all figured out.
At your age? At my age, yeah. Okay.
I don't have it all figured out. It's never too late to start learning and growing. But as long as we're open-minded to continue to grow.
Willing.
Yeah, willing to grow. Then you're going to grow and you're going to learn all this stuff. And at some point, you're going to get there. Mm-hmm. Not fully there, but you're going to start understanding it. Like, I don't believe I'm fully there because I still struggle with abandonment issues. You know, I still struggle with losing people, and I want certain people in my life, but I understand that maybe they're not there, even though they say they are, but I just know they're not. But,
you know,
it's hard.
When we talk about personal relationships, right, we never know who is you know, if the timing is going to be right with the individual, if you're not in sync at the moment. And this is what I always tell the folks that I talk to about personal relationships. You know, people say, well, you grow together. Mm. And I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You don't. Nope.
You absolutely do not. One is always maybe ahead. If you plateau together for a certain amount of time, that's wonderful because then you're in sync for a certain amount of time. But, you know, one is always growing. You just have to be patient and wait for the other to get where you need them to be.
There just needs to be, for me, and this is me personally, we can't be here and, like, there got to be movement, right?
Of course.
It doesn't matter who's moving faster or slower as long as there's movement. You can't be stuck in one spot and then I'm just going way up here.
Well, yeah, but that means that the person who's way up here, right, has to be a little bit patient.
Yeah.
And accommodating to allow that your partner to be able to, you know, grow and get to that same level, right? And that's a back and forth.
Yeah,
that's a back and forth. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, you know, think that, oh, you have to be at the same place. And I'm like,
never going to be that way.
No, because that's really going to cause conflict, right? Yeah. And so I find it really interesting, but I also find that in our professional careers, in our community and work life, you know, there are going to be people who want to work with you. Mm. And then there are going to be people who say, no. And I always tell folks, and one of the things I share with folks is, it's okay if they don't want to work with you. They will. If that person doesn't want to work with you, there will be somebody else that will always want to work with you. But you know what? When you're in the midst of it and you're hearing somebody say, you're not good enough, or you're the problem, or we don't want to work with you, how can you not be somewhat discouraged by that, right? And so that's when I feel personally that you got to expand your network. You got to expand, if you will, the connectivity with other people. And one of the things I do want to share with you, here in the Antelope Valley, we have some really wonderful groups that I don't think really get enough attention. And right now, there's several. Best Start, they have a new facility where the old Mulligans used to be. And Best Start is doing some, Sylvia, the person who heads the Best Start program there, they're doing amazing things with providing training, certifications for women and parents and families, and basically building a whole new, if you will, group of leaders that are going back out and giving information and doing the training for their communities. And I mean, they're doing amazing things. And then also the Palmdale Women's Club. That club has been around since 1921, over 100 years, and they are amazing in the sense that they do so much for these women do so much for the community, but not everybody knows about them. Right. So the reason why I bring that up is because, we're familiar, you and I are familiar with a lot of the nonprofit organizations that do a lot of things, but then where's the umbrella groups, right? Where are the umbrella groups that actually, bring these people together so that there's a coalition, that there's a collaboration? And I think that that's important to know who these groups and these organizations are. And sometimes they're not always at the forefront. They're supportive. They're in a supportive role. Right. So, I would encourage people who are looking for that connectivity to actually look around them, look in their communities, and find these groups and connect themselves to it. Right. I'm just, right now, with everything that's going on, I'm laughing but it's really serious, all kidding aside. There's so much going on. There's so much, if you will. January has had, for Los Angeles and for California, we've had a really bumpy start. Yeah. And there are a lot of people, when you talk about unhoused, there's a lot of people right now in a whole different category that are unhoused. Right? When you think about the recovery process, when you think about the schools, the services, the senior centers, healthcare facilities that are no longer there because they burned in these fires, that's lack of services for our communities. Right. So who's going to pick up, if you will, who's going to pick that all up, right? And that's the recovery process that I think all of us need to be aware of and be there for the long haul. This isn't just like right now. Right, yeah. It's years. It's going to be years in the making. It is. 10, 15 years. And not to mention, the rebuilding process of actual buildings itself, construction, right? So there's going to be a lot of work. And, here in the Antelope Valley, we may actually see an influx of people coming out here because of the housing that we have, right? So is our organizations ready for that influx? Can we support, the amount of people that may be coming in that may actually need help and assistance? I think that's all a question that we, as organizations, we need to kind of take a look at.
That is true. I didn't even think about that part. Because of the housing, a lot of people are going to push north. Of course. Because they always push north because it's cheaper.
Well, also we have the land, right? We have the open space. And we're not dealing with the toxic, debris that's going to have to be removed. So there's, and right now, as we know, a lot of people can't afford even the hotel rooms that are out there right now. Yeah. So where are they going to go? They're going to go where they can afford. And not to mention that a lot of the businesses that are no longer there, you have a lot of employment that's going to end up happening. So when we look at all this, is it going to be a rough time? Yeah. But do I think that, groups coming together, I actually do see a lot of wonderful groups coming together and actually building that bridge to help these people make sure that they can get their lives back on track. Right. But, 2025, we have a lot of work to do in 2025. We do.
We definitely do. It's not only that, but again, what we've been talking about all show is even with the students, our kids in this community. We have a lot of work to do.
We do, but you know what? There's a lot of good people out there.
It is.
Yeah, a lot of unsung heroes out there. So March is March 2025 is Women's History Month. Every March is the National Women's History Month. And the Palmdale Women's Club and Action for Kids is going to be doing an exhibit that's going to be honoring, if you will, some of the women who inspire, right? Women who inspire in our community, some of our unsung heroes.
I think, and I know you said you took your name off the list.
Oh, okay. That was a quiet conversation. We don't have to have that conversation here.
But you should be on it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You do so much. I think you do so much behind the scenes.
Yeah, but I'm not the only one, to be honest. I'm not the only one that took my name off the list. There were two other people who did that, Janice Wallace and...
I know you're being humble right now. I know you're deflecting right now. You're deflecting right now.
I mean, we wanted to make room for those that really...
I get it.
...are deserving.
And you're right. There's a lot of women out here that are deserving of it, but you're one of them.
Women and men, thank you.
Well, yeah, women and we're talking about Women's History Month.
Yes.
But you are one of them because you do a lot of work behind the scenes that no one knows about. But you make a huge difference out here in AV.
Thank you, Mike, for
I
saying
want to say I
that.
appreciate you.
Thank
You inspire me.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, thank you. Am I blushing now?
I'm trying to get you to cry.
You know, my thing is I laugh through everything. People don't understand. When it's hard, I tend to laugh through everything because the alternative is crying, and I'm not willing to cry. So it's like, why cry? Just laugh through it. But thank you. I appreciate the acknowledgement, and the appreciation is mutual. So thank you very much for saying that.
Thank you. But it's never about me. I told you, I'm so far from making any type of impact.
What are you talking about?
I don't feel like I've done anything yet. I don't know why I feel like that, but I really do. I feel like because I can see how much work is needed. Like I feel like I haven't done anything yet. Like,
so you don't think that your work as a mentor in the schools has had an impact?
No, I know it has.
Then why are you saying this?
Because I feel like I still have so much to do. Like I don't want to take no credit or no recognition because yes, I know I've made an impact. I know I have, but it's just so much more that needs to be done. Like, yes. I guess I don't want to ever get what's the word? Complicit, and just be like, okay, I did my part. Like I'm done. Like I don't want to do that because it's so much to do. I don't want to slow down. I don't want to do anything. It's so much to do for these kids.
But you're part of a fabric. You're part of a tapestry of individuals that are doing incredible work and necessary to help support our community, whether they're kids or educators or adults, right? So to say that, what you said earlier, which I don't feel like I've made an impact, is kind of inaccurate in the sense that you're one part of a tapestry, an art piece that basically is important.
I get that.
So I mean, you're being humble. You say that about me, but I'm saying that about you right now.
I feel like you're more humble than me.
You know what? I think I can't speak for anybody else. So let me just say this about me. The impact that I feel I make, and now and in the future and in the past, is it's a legacy, right? It's a legacy piece for a lot of us, and the legacy is what is left. What's left that's sustainable, that you can actually see, and there are other things that you can't see, that you may never see. If you hear about it, that's great every once in a while, but what do you can leave that's sustainable, that can work through any kind of period, any kind of time, any kind of administration, political administration? And you know what? I feel like I'm lucky in that I actually do have those tangibles. So for me, it's what can I do next to make sure that it's a long-lasting, sustainable? And when we do events, it's important. But in addition to events, what projects and programs do we have in place that actually we can point to that says, this is the metrics, this is what we did, this is how we impacted our community, right? So where you are right now, there are tons of ways to measure if you will, the impact that you're having. And I'm sure you're doing that. Your company's probably capturing that. The school's capturing that. So, Mr. Reed, please don't ever say you're not making an impact and that you don't know what kind of impact you're making.
I've never heard you call me Mr. Reed before.
I know. That's why I'm saying it.
Wow.
You're in the classrooms. Don't they call you Mr. Reed?
Some people do, but I prefer.
But that's a form of respect.
No, I get it. But then it makes me feel old, and it's like, just call me Coach Mike. Just call me Coach Mike. I'm fine.
They don't call you Mr. Mike?
So this new school that I'm in this week, most of them call me Mr. Mike.
Right. That's a form of respect, right? I mean, I know that when they call me Miss Lisa, I'm like, okay. And then
I get it.
Right? So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the acknowledgement that you gave me. I really appreciate that. But you know what? In our small but mighty realm of community service, right? It's important that we all support one another. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm saying to you, as an Action for Kid board member, you're going to be at our March 15th opening reception for the Women's Month, and we're going to be basically promoting all these incredible women.
Yes. I can't wait.
Yeah. So,
Can't wait.
having said that, Mike, thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for re-inviting me. And I believe 2025 is going to be an exceptional year.
Well, thank you for coming back. You will be back again. Thank you for hosting the show, as always. It's what you do. That's why I love having you here. But I learn from you. I like listening to you talk. I learn from you.
Gratitude. Thank you. I'm humbled.
I do.
Thank you.
Somebody asked, one of my team members asked me yesterday, she asked me, she said, how are you successful? How did you get to be successful? And I told her, I said, surrounding myself around like-minded people. And like, you're one of them.
Thank you.
Like, just networking with people that you want to be like, that inspire you.
Thank you. And again, people who inspire, right? Who push you to be better than you think you can be. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes, you do have to have those that are contrary to what you think so that you can learn. Everybody, Every person, I think you know this, every person we come across, whether it's a challenging or a positive experience, there's a lesson to be learned.
There's a lesson, there's a lesson in everything. Mm-hmm. Always. I try to look for the lesson in everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, you and I were introduced by a colleague, mm-hmm. right, that went through the positive psychology class with us. And, that was a few years back. Yeah. And I had no idea that we would be working, in our community the way we are right now. So you just never know.
You never know.
So thank you.
Thank you. I take it you're ending my show right now.
It's been a wonderful conversation.
I should say ending your show.
It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
I feel like I'm going to retitle this.
Uh-oh.
The One Life segment with Lisa Sardo. Sounds good. It just rolls off the tongue.
You know what? I appreciate whatever you want to call it.
No, thank you. Seriously, thank you again. I truly appreciate you. I love you. You're amazing. Thank you for what you do in the AV. I know a lot of people don't know what you do, but you do a lot for this AV.
The feeling's mutual, and I appreciate what you do as well. So thank you.
This was about you.
This was about both of us. This was about our community, right?
Yes, it is. This is about our community, and we're doing amazing things, and I look forward to the future of it. All right, you guys, we're out of here. Thank you.